Hi guys, let's go watching. Just before that, subscribe and enjoy yourself. Some years ago, in a large country called the Duchy of Camellia, lived a beautiful girl named Nelia, who was the eldest daughter of the Duke of Camellia. At an early age, the girl lost her mother. Because of this, her childhood was not as joyful as others. But she was not discouraged as she lived with her own little sister who kept her sad. The quiet life with her sister ended when her formidable stepmother took her mother's place. Stepmother treated her sisters badly, did not try to love them as relatives, and there was a good reason for that. She was afraid that her young son would not be able to inherit their father's legacy. Because of her fear, she got the idea to marry off her eldest daughter to a man who was 30 years older than her. After all, the best way to get rid of an unwanted heiress is to marry her off. Simple Nelia, unsuspecting of anything, lives an ordinary life and does cross-stitch embroidery in her room. While embroidering, her younger sister bursts in shouting and tells her the news of her marriage. From what she hears, her older sister is horrified and falls to the floor, and does not understand what will happen next. Once she comes to her senses, she decides to take the desperate step of escaping into the forest, but unfortunately she gets lost in the dark woods. Because of the darkness, the young lady stumbled over a rock and raised her face to see a pack of wolves standing in front of her. Do you think it's fate? Would she now be eaten by wolves, after which she would head to meet her mother? At the same minute, a noble prince from a neighboring country passed by and saw her sitting helplessly on the ground and in tears. He stopped to help the poor lady, and seeing her tears, he thought she was afraid of him and asked her why she was crying. Nelia flatly denied being afraid of him. She reported that she was lost and didn't know where to go or what to do. Lifting her from the ground, they met eyes, and something shone in both of their eyes. She excitedly thanked my lord for his help. After the rescue, the prince took Nelia to his large castle. People shout joyfully and welcome the prince and princess court with celebration, as they are having a wedding ceremony. On the head of the bride is no longer a wreath, but a shining, wonderful, like billions of stars tiara. She's doing well in her life, seemingly oblivious to her sister, but no. She sends her a letter by pigeon. In the letter, the older sister thanks Lenarda, because if it were not for her, she would not have run away and met her destiny, the prince. She thanks her sister and wishes her luck and happiness. When she read the letter from her sister, she rejoiced, but she is just as still living with her stepmother and suffering in the Duke's mansion with no joy. She can't be happy for Nelia. She doesn't know why herself. Maybe because she wishes she could be in her shoes. The protagonist's single, unsmiling sister is named Lenarda Camellia, who is the heiress to the Duchy of Camellia. She apologizes for not introducing herself sooner. She begins to tell me that just recently, about a year ago, she was working in an office. In a world where there are no princesses and no magic. Once opening her eyes, Lenarda found herself in the body of her sister Nelia from the fairy tale Lady Camellia. She was confused at the beginning, but thinking that she's a minor character in this tale, then that's not even a bad thing. Realizing that her older sister wasn't coming back, she mentally said goodbye to her and wished her luck too. But even after Nelia's wedding, Lenarda's fairy tale life continues. The heroine ponders and accepts the fact that her story is also over. The girl dreams of marrying like her sister to some prince or duke. It's a happy ending for a fairy tale, but what if it's not the end after all and there's a sequel? Suddenly, the secondary character will get married, have children, and it is not known if she will return to her homeworld. That's terrible. The girl does not agree with this idea and categorically refuses to accept such a fate, denying it, and is going to do from now on as she wants. 4 years go by. My lady friends who were sitting outside having a cup of coffee were discussing some stormy, intriguing story. Their conversation is paused by a carriage that slowed down loudly, and everyone turned their attention to it, followed by Jan Sereji, the heir of a noble family. The young male was very handsome and narcissistic, always worried about his image and thought it was flawless. Self-esteem was at an all-time high. All eyes are fixed on him, my ladies whispering, asking each other who this young, handsome gentleman is. He's at a loss as to why everyone is looking at him like that, but he's distracted from that feeling by a guy running at him. A guy runs up and hands John a letter from Lady Jeremy. As soon as the letter was in his hands, Jeremy rushed out running. That was the guy's name. Sereji is delighted to receive a letter from his future wife, the daughter of the Marquis of Kellen, and opens a letter from her with anticipation. With good cheer, he opens the letter, thinking it contains beautiful verses for him from his bride. Suddenly, his expression changed dramatically, for instead of verses, there were words that they should part. The gentleman succumbed to feelings of panic. He became uncomfortable, and to avoid anyone seeing his fussing, he found an excuse to go home for something important. He quickly urges his coachman to go faster. The girls noticed that something was wrong, but they didn't realize it. The girls realized who it was. It was Mr. A, and one of them assumed he had read the letter where the lady denied him a relationship. The young lady sitting next to me heard the conversation and asked who Mr. A was and how they knew this information. The ladies were shocked by these questions and pounced on the girl, asking that doesn't she read the servant's bulletin? The paper said that this young man was a spoiled brat, cheating on his lady of the heart with her best friend. Another victim of A was a certain Mrs. B, whose parents do not know much about the life of her future husband and wish to matchmake them. The heroine sitting in her room asks herself when these ventures from the Lord will end. Here she contemplates finishing already, but in a sharp hurry a woman bursts in and addresses her. Milady burst out at the maid, her ears nearly falling off from her screaming. But she brought news of a lord and lady couple. Apollonia, who is Lenarda's maid with a smile on her face, tells her that the marriage has been dissolved. My lord has been denied the Pomovka. The girl asks my lady, "Did she do well?" To which she replies with a vague question. 4 more years pass. Lenarda is still the heiress of Count Camelia, still living in a shabby room according to her. There is a dialogue in the hallway where the maids thank her for publishing articles. She listens to the servants thank her sincerely, for she uncovers the true secrets of this or that person. The embarrassed newspaper writer realizes that thanks to her, the ladies are finding out secret things about the guys and the whole town is on edge. A satisfied Lenarda doesn't think she's done anything important, but she's made some money from it. She continues to be reviled in the Gazette, and the maids almost praise her, for it is thanks to her article that Lady Jeremy will not marry a scoundrel. The maid singles out her mistress as special from all the others. She admires her skills in emphasizing important and sought-after topics. Everyone thinks that all the articles are written because of Mrs. Intelligence, but no one has a clue about her white eyes. The white eye is an inherited ability of the Camellia lineage that allows you to see everything. It seems like such a cherished ability, but it has some nuances. It can only be held by one owner at a time, and it has no permanence until the person reaches the age of majority. Because of this, she was the illegitimate daughter of a servant girl. She was taken by the Duke and became his youngest daughter. He gave her the name Camellia right away. All of this was due to Lenarda being the bearer of the ability. It seems odd, but my lady uses this ability to be able to write articles for the yellow newspaper. A servant comes in to see the women and delivers a message that Duke Camellia is calling her to him. Obediently, she follows the servant down the corridor and tries to figure out what Camillus needs from her. He'd taken his anger out on her before. He might as well do the same now. When his daughter walked in, he didn't even turn to her. You can feel the Duke's hatred for her. He summoned her to him because with adulthood, the ability passed to her and he was left without it. It's a very untenable situation for him. There was nothing unique about a daughter born from a servant girl passing on the ability, so he was a bit angry. In spite of this, he wants to give her a speech of some sort. She was shocked to hear that her father had told her that when she was 19, she would marry Edgar Ballin. This Edgar was the stepmother's nephew, which greatly displeased and angered her. While the smug father smiles through his teeth and is proud of himself, Milady earnestly asks that her father think about his decision. Rumor has it that Dad likes to go down to the basement and gamble, but that's not the worst that could happen. When the Duke loses, he comes home and beats up the poor maids, for they have no one to turn to for help anyway. His daughter begins to object to his words, as she does not want to marry all the more Edgar. Dad doesn't care. He demands, even orders, that she marry him and bear him a long-awaited grandchild. The Duke makes it clear that he doesn't care about his daughter's opinion. The most important thing for him is that Balin be the father of his grandchildren. After all, only then would they be able to inherit the white eye ability, which was very important to the bloodline. For the women of the Camellia lineage, it is a duty to bear a child and continue the lineage. Such a rare ability should not be in unworthy hands. Toward the end of the conversation, the girl realizes that she cannot escape her fate and leaves her father's office disappointed. An agitated lady, finding herself outside the study, is operating against the door. Apollonia passing by anxiously asking what has happened to her, to which she replies that she needs some time to herself. Back in her room, the girl is venting her emotions, turning everything in the room upside down, punching pillows so she is trying to get rid of her anger. The Duke of Camellia told her when she gives him a grandchild with the ability of the white eye, then she can live without worries. His actions prove that he treats people like cattle and does not take their opinions into consideration. Tired of the commotion in her room, she lay on the floor with thoughts that although she was in a fairy tale now and a lady of a noble family, she felt like a slave. After thinking over everything that was happening to her, she made the decision that it wasn't going to happen. She was brought into a fairy tale reality not to be a slave, but to live as a princess. She is not going to submit to such a fate. Apollonia is distracted by a maid entering her room. Upon seeing her room, she doesn't realize what has happened. The girl is so angry, promised herself to give her father hell for his deeds. He dare not use her as an incubator. She's his daughter and doesn't deserve to be treated like that. An evil lady asks her maid for information on Baron Barrel's gambling house, which she couldn't refuse. Telling Apollonia that she was to be married to Barrel, the girl was taken aback by the information she heard. Standing at the table with a disgruntled face, she tells him that she has heard him referred to as a regular at the gambling house. There are also rumors going around that there is a slave trade going on there. Moreover, magic potions are not officially sold there. After analyzing the whole situation, my lady realized that she had a big advantage. She knows about illegal trading, and that's not welcome. The question arises as to how they will get to this event, but more money is not necessary. Edgar is not rich at all, and the upper classes don't think highly of him. Not even having outward attractiveness and great status in society, he is still allowed into such homes. So it won't be hard for the girls to get into the same place. My lady listens to what Apollonia tells her about my lord. He beats up the poor maids, but since they are nobodies in the community, it is ignored. If someone honorable had beaten up someone important, then they'd pay attention. But for now, no one cares. To punish the secretive villain, my lady suggests using the law against him. If the royal family found out about his house, it would definitely be on his reputation because they wouldn't tolerate such houses. That's a great reason to pull him down. If everything works out as it should, everyone who helps the house will be implicated and punished by the law. Milady asks for Apollonia's help to get dirt on him even if it's difficult. Gathering herself, she sets out on a mission, promising to get everything for the sake of not marrying a scoundrel. The girl compares her mistress as if she were her own sister and will try to do anything for her good. Apollonia is so loyal that she swears to get the dirt at the cost of her life, which makes the lady uncomfortable. The paper's writer tries to write something, but everything is netted. She understands if there is no humor and intrigue, no one will read the articles. Because of this, all the drafts are scattered around the room and making a mess. She notices that there are a lot of X's on the pages, catches herself thinking suddenly she has deviated from the rules of writing. Through an open window, she is visited by an old childhood friend, Sig Erlan. He was a bullfinch. He asked Lenarda why she was so sad. This was no ordinary bullfinch. He was a mage locked in a tower and often visited it in the form of various animals. She calls her friend Sigir, thinks it's cute and pretty, but he doesn't really like it. He prefers to be called Sig Erlan. He threatens her if she teases him like that, he won't give her a mystery book she'll be interested in. So it's in her best interest to call him whatever he wants. Lenarda begins to play along to get the book and bows to Erlan, praising him, saying he is the best, to which he replies that he could have bowed lower. He liked his friend's behavior and asks for more praise, his speech interrupted by the question, what did he bring for her? It seemed to be an ordinary book, but it could record voice. She was so excited to have a personal recorder, and she felt like she was participating in something illegal. Sigir asks Lenarda, so why did she ask for such a book? To which she responds with the question, do you know about Baron Barrel's house? He says he's known for selling illegal potions. Potions are produced by mages locked in a tower. This gentleman buys unusable potions from mages and sells them for several times the price. Spoiled potions have a mirror effect, for example. A spell potion becomes an aphrodisiac. Hearing this gruesome story, she was shocked. But because of this scam, he has a lot of clients. Sigurd goes on to say, more demand from older people, but it's not clear why they need it. One of the regulars is Count J, which really surprised her, and she immediately had a change in her face. There are a lot of rumors that the Count lately, he often enjoys the attention of maids, and perhaps it is just because of the potion. Lenarda's mind puts together puzzles about him and begins to chuckle evilly. Sigirin wondered why she was laughing. As if to let everything pass by her ears, sitting down at her desk, she begins to write something in a book quickly and angrily with her pen. She began her tale about a certain house of Mr. D, whose stock in trade was spoiled potions. Because of his demand, the establishment is enriched. It's a spell potion, but it's tainted. It is bought back from the mages from the tower. Due to corruption, it loses its true properties and becomes an aphrodisiac. The protagonist of the story is an elderly aristocrat who has been the owner of the establishment for 3 months and 10 days and has invested a lot of money in buying a mage potion. He is outwardly completely unattractive. Even the maids and others of low status in society don't find him the least bit attractive. The cleaning maids are discussing the new issue of Count J magazine. The article says it's an elderly aristocrat and it could very well be him. Words come out of his mouth about what a disgrace he is to high society. The lovely guy is amazing at asking, "Who writes all this nonsense?" He says you shouldn't believe all this gossip that is written in the yellow car, and you shouldn't believe it all, and asks you not to read it at all. The question comes to him, isn't he interested in reading all this? He can't understand why everyone is so interested in reading it. After all, they know how it really was, and they don't like reading it. Lucas Likesight intends to meet personally with the author of the newspapers and talk about the false articles that are written there. He was the firstborn son of the great empress of the Lycian Empire, but unfortunately she died right after giving birth, and he hadn't felt a mother's love since childhood. When he was 4 years old, he was lost in the forest. His Majesty ordered to scour the entire forest in search of the imperial prince. They searched for him for hours, but there was no sign of him, not a hair. The emperor and his people were very saddened by the loss of Lucas. Everyone had already accepted that the little prince was not alive. But one day the great lord received news of a son from his servant. Everyone thought he was dead, but a miracle happened. It had been 13 years since he'd been missing, and he'd returned as a 17-year-old boy. When he was lost in the woods, he was found by a certain commoner and raised by her. Upon seeing his now-grown son, his father rushed to him with hugs and questioning where he had been. During the time he was growing up, he thought of himself as a perfectly normal person. And then one day he learns that he is the son of an emperor and he could rise to the top of the empire. But the right of succession passed to his half-brother Norton, who was born to a new empress. Norton turns to his brother and asks, why didn't he accept his invitation? To which he dubiously replied that the servants had advised him not to come because his presence might threaten his authority. The younger brother is glad he has an older brother now and doesn't want him to think that way. Norton kindly asks his brother to tell him about the outside world, the life of ordinary people, and that he should not shun him, for he is not pleased to see such an attitude towards himself. The two princes make their way through the streets of the city, where they are politely greeted by the people. The carriage paused. A girl ran up and gave the flowers to Norton. Lucas, observing this whole situation, sees how kind his brother is to ordinary people and thought that he would make a wonderful emperor. But after a while, he saw his brother's true face. All this time, he had a mask on his face and was hiding his true self. My younger brother was squeamish about how horribly soaked his clothes were and ordered the servant to throw the clothes away when he got home. After overhearing the conversation, he realized that all this time there was only the appearance of a good consprince, but in fact he is contemptuous of the ordinary citizens of his country and the way they live. In fact, during his reign, he took away all rights from the nobles who were serving the country for good. For the soldiers at the front, he ordered rotten wheat and stale supplies to be sent. He put himself above others, did not think about those who were not nobility, and such easily sent to the front in the hottest spots. Lucas was supposed to ride with His Majesty to the prince's palace, but he decided he hadn't soaked up enough of the stench he was used to. Seeing and hearing all of his younger brother's words, he doubted that they were truly of the same blood. Senior didn't trust such two-faced people. Unlike the imperial family, he understood the common people. After learning the truth about the current crown prince, he decided to overthrow him and become the new crown prince. First, Lucas needs to eliminate Beryl's gambling house. That's how he's going to hit Norton because he's his mainstay. In his hands, he holds that famous servant's bulletin and decides to find the one who writes all these dirty stories. Lenarda is strolling quietly through the streets of the city, but then she is met by a certain gentleman who would like her to miss him. As soon as he saw her, he started praising her, saying how beautiful she was. What a pronounced figure, he couldn't take his eyes off her. To what she does not answer him, says that he should watch his health because he should give her an heir, and he is not young. Lenarda asks Edgar Balin loud and clear if he has ever heard her agree to marry him, to which he replies with a smirk on his face that she dare not disobey the Duke because he wants a grandchild. When she heard his words, she could not bear her anger and swung her umbrella at him, causing him to fall to the ground. She made it clear to him that only she has the right to choose. She can choose another husband, and he can't choose his wife. While they were sorting out their relationship, her mother saw them. As soon as she saw the position Edgar was in, she ran up to Lenarda and slapped her. She had completely forgotten that her Balin was her stepmother's nephew, who reprimanded her for treating her future husband this way. Despite this, she is determined to smash the marriage plans no matter what it takes. Upon entering the room, my lady sees Apollonia in tears and wonders what has happened to her that drops of tears are pouring from her beautiful eyes. She sobbingly answers her that something happened to her brother. Apollonia's younger brother is named Paul and is in charge of printing the servant's messenger. Lenarda asks the servants what has happened to him, and they say that he has been kidnapped. Milady is horrified after this information. But then a girl holds out a letter to her. At first, she didn't realize who it was from, but when she read it, she understood. In the letter were the words that a certain someone wants to meet someone who writes magazine articles. Paul's little sister started crying again, worried about what they would do to him. She also reported that she had asked people in the village to look for him, but unfortunately they did not find him. All they can do is report a missing person to the authorities. Leonard blames himself for his disappearance. On the back of the note, my lady notices an inscription from the kidnapper. He asked to come to the rendezvous point alone. That's when she gets the question of what you need from her. Closing her eyes, she thinks about what she should do. Having made her decision, she opens her clothes closet and asks for help with her clothing choices. She knows she has no choice. She has to save Paul. Going through her dresses, my lady notices that they are torn and starts to feel a little sad. She asks Apollonia to help with one dress. Already coming in for a meeting, but my lady is serious and promises to return. At the same moment, the girl is worried about her and wishes her luck. Lenarda blames herself for her brother's theft and takes responsibility for it. She was just leaving and said not to worry too much. She had a plan. As she walks out the door, she realizes that she doesn't really have a plan, and those were just reassuring words. The place of meeting was appointed near the railroad station. As she approaches her gloomy destination, her Camellia lineage ancestry gives her a sense of confidence and makes her feel safe. She approached the gentleman and asked if he was who she wanted, to which he replied, "He's the one if she's not just a lost girl." Lenarda immediately demands to see Paul, but first my lord needs to be sure of something. He showed one of the magazine articles and asked, "Did she write it?" To which she confidently replies, if it wasn't for her, she wouldn't even be here. My lord was openly surprised that the article was written by a girl and not a man. She asks to get to the point. My lady apologized. Suddenly her article had hurt my lord's honor, but she had followed all the rules and had done no harm. She tells him that kidnapping for 2 lines is overkill. In response to her speech, she hears a loud laugh from the gentleman. Then he says that for a girl who writes gossip anonymously, hearing those words out of her mouth is funny. The mysterious man was not interested in the article, but in the writer of the article herself. He's worried that if he keeps this up, his identity will be revealed. Fear creeps up on Lenarda, and she asks in an anxious voice not to come any closer. At last the master said what he had called her for. He likes the way she writes her articles and offers her to work for him. The girl is slightly flustered by the suggestion, but continues to listen. If she works for him, my lord will support her financially and supply her with occasional information. It is also not unimportant to disseminate information not only to the maids, but also to the common people. He himself will benefit politically, and Leonard will be read more. Only one thought comes to mind. He wants to spread gossip through my articles. The offer is very interesting, but can she trust a man she doesn't really know? My lady asks for assurances, to which he is very surprised. The first thing Leonard asks is to release her employee of the print shop, and after fulfilling this condition, she will be able to make a clear decision. The girl tries not to show her fear as she is negotiating, and a man's life depends on it. The heroine says if her employee has had something done to her, she won't just let it go. A secretive lord orders his servants to send a hostage home. As soon as Paul was released, he saw my lady and rushed to her. He was in pleasant shock and surprise that she was trying to save him. Lenarda got a good look at his face and realized he was sleeping sweetly. He said that he thought he would be interrogated, but he was not touched or tortured, although the people looked quite intimidating. The lady reprimands her opinion that kidnapping is a detriment. Once the conditions have been met, they can now proceed to negotiations, to which she calmly agrees. First, Lenarda talks about his services and warns that they won't be cheap. He smiles sweetly and talks about how he has more money than she imagines. The girl, however, is determined to demand more than he has. The lord, on the other hand, is talking about how she can't even imagine how rich he is. There are two stubborn people involved in the negotiations. Lenarda notices a man with a shiny sword. She realizes that a few have the right to wear it, so it's not an ordinary person calling her to a meeting. But she's not just a maid either. She takes off her cloak and introduces herself as who she is. They thought she was a perfectly ordinary maid, but she is the daughter of Duke Camellia. Also emphasizes that even members of the imperial family are obliged to treat her with reverence. Realizing that Lenarda Camellia herself was standing before them, they were pleasantly surprised. The sensible thing to do would have been to leave after taking Paul, but she didn't leave because the white eye spoke to her. The lady reflects that the man she is negotiating with is very intelligent and hardly a commoner. Sponsorship is good, but can the heroine trust him? Suddenly, in that moment of reflection, a white eye appeared to her, telling her that she could well rely on this man. Besides, he's the key to her future. Saying this to the girl, the white eye as always disappeared as suddenly as it appeared. Since he cannot lie, Lenarda realizes that what he says is true. The lady of the ducal family has already revealed herself, but is the mysterious him about to similarly open up and introduce himself? But for the moment, the most important thing for my lady is to avoid an unpleasant conflict. As he sits thoughtfully, she is pleased with herself for borrowing Imelda's dress and jewelry, but it's terribly uncomfortable. The main man who called her to the meeting realizes who she is. The guards suggest that it could be an imposter, because there is information that Mrs. Camellia has left the city. He has heard of the second daughter and demands proof from Lenarda if she is indeed Duke Camelia's daughter. She hands him a certain round object that is supposed to authenticate her identity, and she emphasizes that if he's not convinced, the deal is off. In his hands, he holds the Camellia family crest, which only family members are authorized to wear. And how without a doubt? What if she stole it? Seeing his doubtful face, she pompously emphasizes trust during transactions, which is very difficult for him to do. Still, the secret character decides to trust. After all, she has impressed him with who she is. A satisfied milady rejoices at the accomplishment of the transaction. According to the Lord, her task will be to fight the decline of morals in the empire, but what does she want in return? She expects more from him, as money is a pressing issue. My lord, on the other hand, promises to make things better for her. As her activities will expand over time, she asks for a place to live so that she can't be found and lured to her side, or the willingness to do harm will increase. This request, too, will be easy to fulfill. And last but not least, she needs someone to protect her until she comes of age, and it doesn't have to be just anyone. My lord, however, is well aware that she wishes to remain anonymous. Quite suddenly, the gentleman and his servant are attacked by laughter. They are laughing at the fact that the journalist turned out to be a minor. Lenarda, on the other hand, has her own reasons. The heroine has nothing to lose in her situation, so she'll take the risk of working with someone. To the mysterious man, she turns and says that he may not reveal his identity, but that in order to work with her, he must remember something. Highlights 3 enumerated conditions: money, housing, patronage. If all of this is accomplished, it will be insomniac to write what they say. She leaves and appeals to the master kidnapper to find her when he has decided on his answer. My lady will be expecting him. On the way home, Paul asked my lady a question thoughtfully and even somehow tentatively. The question was, did she really think the conditions she set were feasible? It seemed unreal to him. There is no clear answer to this question. Most families have nothing to counter Duke Camelia's family. The likelihood of fulfillment is slim, but then why did she set such high conditions? Maybe she has some plans of her own. But it's really all about the white eye saying that this man is keying into her future. She believed him. Even if there is a failure to fulfill the conditions provided, Lenarda will still see him. Milady rushes her friend to get home quickly and finally get some rest. Camelia's estate found out in the morning that she had escaped during the night and greatly resented the behavior. She's about to get married, and she's being so naughty. On top of that, she also stole jewelry and a dress, which is not befitting someone like her. At this point, she asks Madame to calm down and not scream so loudly. Imelda, whose stepmother tells her in a harsh tone of voice to shut up and promises to wean her from such actions she has committed. The stepmother decided to apply a harsh method of upbringing with a whip, which she ordered the maid to bring. The maid was taken aback. Lenarda enters the dialogue saying that Apollonia is her servant, and she doesn't have to obey her. And since the stepmother's whip is so necessary, let it be replaced by her pens. Imelda clearly hadn't expected this attitude from her adopted daughter. It made her angry, and she allowed herself to take a swing at her. The action is interrupted by a voice asking for the sister at the door. Cullen walks into the room. He was the only son in the family. The stepmother, at the sight of her son, immediately changed her face and mood as if nothing had happened. Cullen wondered what they were both doing, to which his mother told him they were just talking. Lenarda, however, is not silent and quietly tells her that she likes to talk with her hands, to which her stepmother shuts her up. At that time, my brother came to check on his sister after hearing about her marriage and congratulate her. He loved his sister unlike his mother. The Duchess, however, marvels at how kind her baby is. He wants to join the conversation, but his wish is denied. The mother wouldn't let me join in, describing the conversation as adult, and more specifically, so it's preparations for a wedding where small children don't belong. Then my brother admits he came in because he thought they were fighting. The stepmother, however, began to deny his speculations. While he was talking to his mom, his little sister climbed out the window. This action of hers made her mother even angrier. She yells after Lenarda that she's not done. But the girl didn't care. Sliding down the rope, she was still smiling, showing the obscene gesture. Observing this picture, the baby does not understand what is going on. The mother says not to pay attention, because they always talk like this. His Majesty broke the news to his servant, which left him in shock. He intends to propose marriage to Lenarda. His servant apologizes many times, but confidently says it's a total scandal. The guy smiles and chafes at the thought of marriage. He doesn't care who says what. About 10 minutes before his news, a servant came to him to give him information about Camelia. The prince asked me to get information on her. He learns that Princess Nelia does have a younger sister. The information was learned by Cyrus Lemilius, aide-de-camp to the prince and son of the Marquis Lemicius. The prince found nothing of interest to him in his information, but then Keir finds her story a little strange. This intrigues the young boy. The oddity was that she hadn't had a high society debut. She hadn't been shown much to the public, and no one knows what she looks like. Cyrus continues to inform his master and speaks of the rumor, which states that Camilla's youngest daughter is illegitimate. They say she was born in another country to a servant, and Duke Camelia didn't put her on his estate right away. And the worst part is that the new countess hates her. The prince thought about her request to have a protector and suggested that she might just be plain lonely. Adjutant inquires after the prince's subsequent actions. The first and second conditions are feasible, but to fulfill the third, the prince will propose to the Duchess of Camelia. From what he heard, Keir changed his usual expression to one of surprise. He tries to reason with the prince, thinking it's a ridiculous joke. But that's not the case, and the prince hopes it will come to him sooner rather than later. The idea of marriage must be a good one. He put all the puzzles together and concluded that she possessed the white eye. The gentleman talks a bit about the white eye's ability and its nuances. He's so pleased with himself he couldn't even imagine who he'd meet. They are going to go to the chosen one together. Sitting in some bar, Lenarda voices her displeasure towards Imelda. She's also noticing that her swelling hasn't gone down. With her side vision, she notices a guy ordering for himself and apparently for her. Realizing that he had ordered for her as well, she politely declined. But she's got no choice. The order's already been approved. They bring his order, he says in a disappointed voice that he'll drink it himself. The girl doesn't mind. A dialogue ensues. The young man asks if she is sure she doesn't want to have a drink with him, to which he wryly responds with a suggestion of what if he slipped something else in. Lenarda compliments him by saying he's quite handsome. He accepts it with a smile and thanks him. Such a surprise made him feel good. She looks at him with eyes like a lover's and says that he is very handsome for a kidnapper. Her cleverness made him choke up, and he was surprised she recognized him. She recognized him by his voice, said she wasn't as stupid as her peers. Looking at her confirms his thoughts that the gift of the white eye is not given to just anyone. She reminds him that her terms won't be so easy to fulfill. The prince has already thought it over and asks her a question about her suitor. The heroine wondered why he decided to ask if she had a suitor, to which she replied that there was no one. He shocks her abruptly with his words that he intends to propose to her. The prince considers himself the best protector for the unmarried lady, which is why he proposes to her, but offers not an ordinary marriage, but a sham marriage. Lenarda confidently refuses, arguing that she cannot marry a man of lower status than her father. Hearing a negative answer, he doesn't step back. A offers a different suggestion. The suggestion, hooking up, was very bold and unexpected. Kier, who was sitting at the end of the hall, had a drink pouring out of his mouth from what he had heard. He couldn't contain his feelings of surprise, and they were showing in his mouth like that. Clinging to the prince and taking him by the bow tie, my lady tries to figure out what his motives are. If she gets pregnant, she can deceive her family and say that an heir will be born. It's a very good deal for her, actually. She doesn't have a lot of choices, but she can still rub everyone's nose in it. The prince and Cyrus can't come to grips with her speech and plans. Milady decided to ask her soulmate if he still had a choice. Before the prince arrived, she got a little drunk and he noticed it. Lenarda became gambling in no time and was already trying to produce a one-night deal. From stress and alcohol, she has already completely lost her mind, offers the gentleman ridiculous things, but from the outside it is even cute and funny. He could not tolerate this attitude, so Cyrus intervenes and tries to appease my lady. He loudly called her shameless. That for a moment the prince felt a little ashamed. In her defense, she says if she doesn't do anything, she'll be married to a pig, and suggests that Kira imagine herself in her shoes and see who has a conscience. He did manage to calm him down after all. The prince and his adjutant retreat to the exit doors and leave the establishment, with a promise to see you again soon. Kier gives his opinion on this girl and says it's not worth it for some newspaper, says it's not too late to pull back, and His Highness only had her on his mind and found her quite seductive. Another misunderstanding on my part. At that moment, he suggests remembering how high-born young ladies behave. They are all the same, but my lady is not like the others. She pleases and amuses the young prince. Kerr once again wonders if the lord will really give a promiscuous maiden a chance to become the empress of the country. My lord notes the fact that he is overreacting, and they may be heard. What if some of these people are hidden spies for Norton? He realized his mistakes and apologized, but told the truth to His Highness that he was still protesting even if there were political motives. He asks Kier not to be a prude, since nothing happened between them. Just because he followed her to the inn doesn't mean anything. The question comes to the lord. Has he given his heart already? He thought about the question and replied that he hadn't given his heart away, but her look impressed him. They both return home, the prince planning to go to bed early for what would be a good start to the morning. When Lenarda arrived home, she was greeted by her stepmother with shouts and complaints that she had dared to run away for such a long time. She orders one of the servants to lock the young girl in a room and not to let her out anywhere without permission. And if she dares to come out, she will have her legs broken. Overseeing this whole process is Apollonia. She tried to resist, but her actions were unsuccessful. Powerless, she resigned herself to being grounded for a few days. Hearing a noise near the window, she turned around and saw Sigirja. He flew in to visit her and, noticing her flushed cheeks, wonders what's wrong. Sigir thought something blushed on his cheeks and began to criticize. Taking his wings, she informs him that he's stupid. Explains that it was her stepmother who beat her for running away in the night. He apologizes to her and asks why her relatives are so mean to her. Hearing that she's getting married soon is a big surprise, asking who the poor guy is. Lenarda is already out of breath at his words, but holds back her emotions. She asks why he's here, because he's always visiting on business. Almost forgetting the most important thing, he hands her a gift. It was a beautiful clear vessel with a blue, shiny liquid. Holding it in his hands and examining it, Sigir tells him that it is an unusual elixir that makes a person's body transparent for a certain period of time. Very amazing gift. It will definitely come in handy for a girl. You can see it on her face how happy she is. There are slight nuances to this elixir. It has no effect on clothing, just on the body. Upon realizing this, the girl was very embarrassed and went into a rage. But it is worth mentioning, this elixir is very expensive and gives instant results. What was more disconcerting was that if he spontaneously ended his act, the people around him might see it and think she was a pervert. Without saying anything sensible in response, he merely asked that the elixir not be thrown away as a token of friendship. Recalling his words once more, he flies away. While Lenarda doesn't understand how and when the elixir comes in handy, with such nuance, a certain carriage not known whose was visible in the window. A distinguished guest is visiting. The butler asks no one to enter the room but him. The mysterious guests with the Camellia family were Lucas Lycaeus and Cyrus. The Duke of Camellia does not understand what owes such a sudden arrival. 3 members of the family are honored with a prince's welcome. He also apologizes for such a sudden, unannounced visit. Meeting Imelda Camellia, who has never met until now. Of course, how to overlook the smallest member of the family is Cullen. The family wonders what brings such a noblewoman to their estate in the early morning hours. Putting off answering the question, Lucas wonders why there are only 4 cups on the table. The head of the Camellia household is stressed by the question. But then Lucas asks about the Duke's youngest daughter, who is not present with them. Not noticing anything that would give away her whereabouts, no. The prince speaks his guesses about her being locked up. This comes as a shock to the Duchess, and she tries to deny it. The smug prince asks that she be brought to him. The couple is worried if she gets out, she'll tell all the ways she's been treated, and they won't feel so good about it. It wouldn't be profitable. After coming up with an excuse in that they wouldn't allow their daughter to go outside and have contact with people, they seem to relax. This further angered and piqued the prince's interest. Tells me they saw each other yesterday and had a very good conversation. Imelda, on the other hand, was so outraged by these actions that it was impossible not to notice. Briefly summarizing the nature of the visit, namely to meet her. The Duke was wary. Lucas openly states that he has feelings for their daughter. Everyone was shocked at what they heard. He came not as a prince, but as a gentleman to meet the father of the lady of his heart. The Duke angrily says that by such an action His Highness is insulting them. The Emperor recognized the Camellia family as the only ones in the capital entitled to the title of Duke. Duke reports if Lucas wasn't of the imperial family, his head would have been off his shoulders as soon as possible. The prince listens quietly. It's an insult to the family to be ordered to bring their daughter. This time, Lucas is forgiven. It looked like they were doing him a favor. The head of the family realizes that the young man has only recently joined the august family and does not yet know all manners. The prince admits his mistakes and that he doesn't know much about etiquette. Apologizing, he leaves the manor and promises to visit next time with the rules. Before His Highness leaves, the stepmother hastily catches up with him. She explains that one must first ask her mother's permission before seeing an unmarried girl, and that they have reasons not to let her out in public. Lucas asks not to explain further. He's already figured it out. He says it's because he's Lenarda's destiny and doesn't want to see anyone else. Next time, it'll be official. The family bows to say goodbye to His Highness. Since the arrest ban has been lifted, Lenarda can now eat cakes with her maid. I noticed the candy's gotten a lot better. The 3 maids hovered over the girl and observed if the girl ate a lot and her face rounded up. That means only one thing: she's gaining weight. To see if my lady has put on weight, they're wearing a corset. Milady, on the other hand, denies gaining weight, comparing her waist to an aspen waist. The princess is not going to live as she is told. She will live the way she wants to live and eat what she wants to eat. The maids pounce on her and shout at her, saying it is indecent for a girl to have a full figure. A butler enters the room and informs him that Leonard is expecting his lordship. A father meets his daughter in an unfriendly manner, as always. Her father knows about Lenarda's nighttime escape from home and has summoned her to talk to her. The daughter doesn't even deny her actions and argues that she is tired of staying at home all the time. She wanted to get some outdoor exercise before she got married. Hearing indescribable nonsense. Father swung around and hit Leonard with all his might. He reminds her that she has no right to frivolous behavior. In an orderly tone, he demands to know where they met Prince Lucas. She tries to hide the meeting with him, but the father clearly does not like this position of the daughter. Since he knows the whole truth, he wants to hear everything from her. Telling her daughter of the arrival of His Highness, who wanted to see her. She was stunned at the news. The white eye turns to Lenarda and confirms her father's words. The Duke is very afraid of losing the white eye ability, accuses his own daughter of plotting to steal the ability. Not understanding what attracted the prince to Camellia, he keeps telling her that she's not going to get away with it. The Duke will order the butler to bring the wedding date as close as possible. Leonard is once again locked in his room and assigned a caretaker. Her father wants her to marry Edgar, to have a grandchild of Camellia's lineage even if she is pregnant by the prince. Orders me to go back to my room and not to go anywhere. Gossip about the prince's arrival and his intentions has already spread throughout the estate. Everyone is discussing. A servant girl tries to find out from her mistress where she met the prince. But she herself does not realize where, for she was not present at the receptions or at the balls. They say Lucas Lekeist is a terrible son. He is very handsome and charismatic, kind and generous, blonde with blue eyes. Every girl's dream. After describing the prince, Leonard realizes that the kidnapper is not a commoner, but his highness. The Duke ordered the guards to categorically not let anyone into Lenarda's chambers, not even the maid who tried to enter her. Lenarda overhears the conversation and is upset that Apollonia is not being let in, and if this is the end for her. They took the rope away from her, and the guards are getting bigger and bigger. Some sound outside her window. Lenarda's brave maids decided to help her down and brought a ladder under her window so she could get out of her prison. When she came down the stairs from the window, the maids gave her a cloak so she wouldn't be seen. They set about a hole in the fence through which she could climb and escape unnoticed. The hole is camouflaged from the mistresses, hustling the mistresses to climb over faster and get a taste of freedom. Unafraid of punishment if they're found out, they still help their milady. The motivation that drives them is a romantic love story with a prince. She is the dearest of all. They feel it is their duty to help Lenarda meet the prince. She's interested in how far the rumors about them have spread. After arriving at Camellia Manor, the rumor of their affair became a major topic among the young gentlemen and servants. A passionate romance between the brave prince and my lady, the intervention of Imelda and the Duke only spiced things up. Passing from mouth to mouth, the story grew with new details and henceforth called a love affair. The maids rallied all together and decided to help the protagonists of the love affair meet. Before her mistress left, one of the maids had given her a makeover to accentuate her natural beauty even more. There she was, climbing over and free. The maids, however, ask her not to forget about them when she becomes a princess. She walks into a bar where there is no one but one man who beckons. The man was His Highness's beautiful one. As etiquette dictates, she bows to greet him. With a sneer, he talks about how last time was without etiquette. But my lady was unaware of who exactly she was having a conversation with, apologizes for such disrespectful behavior, promises that it won't happen again. After listening to my lady, he doesn't even know how to respond. Lucas informs her that she can act completely normal with him without using etiquette. She immediately orders one beer for herself. He takes note of how quickly she brushes aside all formalities, pleasantly surprised at her finding out who he really is, but remains as simple towards him. While the girl was drinking her beer, the prince notices the redness on her cheek. Wasting no time, immediately asks why her cheek is red and a little swollen. She begins to talk about how a certain prince arrived at the estate in the morning, and it made her father very angry, and he vented his anger with an obscene gesture. That's the end of her story about why her cheek is swollen. Lucas apologizes for his somewhat rash actions and the fact that he was so rushed. She casts her gaze downward and notices some incomprehensible movement on the prince's part. It's like she's petrified since she doesn't understand his intentions. From the prince's lips comes the words that a normal apology is not enough. Assumes he doesn't want her to hit him. He's willing to take a punch from my lady if it's any consolation to her. Doesn't understand how he can want her to beat him when she was beaten because of him. Here she seemed ready to strike, but abruptly changed her mind about doing so, saying he just didn't want to do it. With the realization that he is a man not easily hit, he makes the decision to strike out on his own. It was even more shocking. Keir opposes the prince's actions. He will not let him hurt himself and hinders his actions. As soon as he noticed the outrage, he apologized and promised not to hurt himself again. It's not even going to happen in my mind. His innocent, sweet face reeks of kindness. After getting to know each other better, Lenarda suggests that they get down to the business for which they met. Prince has plans to schedule a benefit for two. She suggests moving side by side. The first place my lady starts is with His Highness. Lenarda suggests that the brothers do not have a good relationship with each other. Prince Norton has an impressive estate. Since he is married to the daughter of the Marquis Lemisius, his power has strong outside support. And on Lucas's side, only the loyal Cyrus. Cyrus is the younger heir of Marquis and is not the heir of the heirless. Consequently, there will not be much political support. The Marquis chose to side with Norton, so he gave his daughter away to him. Had Sir also done the same and taken Norton's side, a brilliant career at court awaited him with his sword fame. To his family, he is a traitor as he has taken the side of the prince of the common people. Leonard informs us that the prince's support is very doubtful, but he is the only one who will support Cyrus. The prince is quite surprised at my lady's thinking. They'd seen each other officially once, and she'd already drawn such clear conclusions about them. It's like a game of chess to her. He was absolutely right. All the articles that are written in the magazine were mined through her resourcefulness. Originally, as the prince intended, to use the servant's messenger to distribute to the common people, compromising Norton. The plan was to make the newspaper a platform for political discussion. The girl calls the prince a prick. She doesn't just throw her words around, she argues everything. As a rule, the emperor is not chosen by the common people, but by someone else. After all, whatever loyalty they have to someone, they can't go far on it. The only power people have is the rapid spreading of rumors. The prince's intentions are obvious. He wishes to enlist the support of a small number of progressive nobles, including Cyrus. There is one nuance. All the old aristocracy is on Norton's side. They were all in favor of imperialism. The balance of power on the side is not equal. Norton is a priority. That's why he wanted to consolidate his power with new ideas that would be carried by ordinary people. It's like a last hope for him. Prince Lucas is young and handsome, but he doesn't have such great aristocratic support compared to his brother. He has a well-built body due to physical activity. He has a healthy tan, perhaps because he used to work hard in the fields. That's the whole essence of Prince Lucas. But despite all that, he's considered a pretty strong spirit. His Majesty's childhood was spent among the common people, and he must understand how the people feel about the nobility, which has not changed for centuries. Milady emphasizes the ability to see the world from a people's perspective in a very unique way. Not every emperor can put himself in the shoes of the common man. Therein lies the prince's weakness. He thinks only of the people, which greatly diminishes the effectiveness of his plans. Therefore, without the support of the powerful nobility, Lucas will not see the throne, and that's exactly his goal. From the outside, the speech he hears is perceived as if he doesn't need a servant messenger at all. Prince wanted to not just provide writing ideas, but to be a part of the paper. But there's something he needs to know first. Milady once again emphasizes who Lucas Leakey is. She's trying to convey to him that a gossipy yellow paper spreading slander is no match for a prince. She offers to buy his publishing house, not in her name, of course. Let Cyrus Lemicius, newspapers, magazines, etc., do it. The nobles, in turn, will pay in silver for quality news. The prince, however, begins to realize that not only the people, but also other estates will read the articles. It will be profitable. Lenarda suggests that Norton has secret plots against Lucas. But fortunately, the prince can rejoice. He met the very luck of Lenara Camellia. Milady abused him last time, but she's essentially grateful to him. If it hadn't been for his ill-considered visit, she wouldn't have made it out of the manor and they wouldn't have met again. They don't want a yellow paper or a political paper. The content could be divisive between people. People don't need political newspapers. If the author isn't Leonard, everything is doomed. Most of all, people are interested in gossiping about someone. That's what you should be writing about. She summarizes her thought and says, "Provocative crap sells best. If you make a newspaper, make one that's fun." Lucas didn't doubt Lenarda's ways of elevating the paper. He surmised her thoughts. Prince should have bought a publishing house to be read by aristocrats. Not only will people pay for the newspaper, but propaganda can be discreetly inserted between the lines. Gossip, propaganda, and entertainment is a common strategy. Of the common people who will buy newspapers, there will be a staff that can be taken into circulation in their favor. Lenarda Camellia's plan pleased the prince very much. He couldn't even think of such a thing. That's all very well, but what's the benefit to her? He makes his assumptions that maybe she just wants to get away from her family, more money. That's why she doesn't mind working together and offers it all. The Duke is ashamed of no one but her, as she is known to be the daughter of a servant. That's why she'd want to mess with him. What's more, she broke the plans to pass the ability on to his son. Because of this, her father forces her to marry sooner, so that the ability can be passed on to the other as soon as possible. If Lenarda gives birth to a white-eyed heir, she will have the option of divorce. Of course, it was not without conditions. She would have to keep an eye on the heir's name. The prince resents the fact that the Duke sees his children as little more than an extension of the family. When he learned of Lenarda's abilities, he did not understand her true motives and visited the Duke. The prince is pleased to hear my lady's speculation. You can't hide anything from her. He confirms everything the princess said and speculation about his actions. Lucas just wanted her to get word of his visit. It was unexpected to find out what a scumbag he really is and would use violence on his daughter. Because of the unexpectedness of His Majesty's visit, the Duke had more worries and headaches. Duke Camellia will regret not allowing the marriage to take place, thanks to the knights, who are gossips. Rumors quickly began to spread among the maids and others. The romanticized legend doesn't seem so terrible to Lenarda. She finds it a little sweet. This story will be the very first article. Thanks to her, the newspaper will be flying off the counter like hotcakes. Keir doesn't approve of all these actions. He believes that a prince cannot, to the detriment of his name, accept the spreading of tawdry gossip. The prince, on the other hand, finds it a great idea, so romantic as well. Keir reminds us that the prince's goal is to become crown prince. He's worried about him because if word gets out, he'll be accused of betrayal. Lenarda reminisces about getting married and agrees to a sham marriage. She's determined to make him emperor. If the love story gains great notoriety, the Duke of Camellia himself will be forced to give his blessing. Milady wishes to rid herself of her father's control. Doesn't want to be, in his words, a means of passing on a family ability to the next generation. His offer was that after the baby was born, she could go and do whatever she wanted. He wouldn't need her anymore, especially since he didn't have the proper feelings for her as a daughter. What the girl resents most is the age difference with her imposing husband. 11 whole years. It's unbearable and unattractive. If one is to marry, let it be a young and handsome guy. Lenarda proposes to the prince to become her lawful husband. The prince is a little confused at her words and suggestion. She likes his looks and doesn't mind being a husband. She asks not to be deceived through one fact given. They will not marry because of their feelings for each other. Once the goal is achieved, the emperorship. They can easily get divorced if feelings for each other don't show up. The prince blurted out that the emperor is not as easy to divorce as he seems, to which my lady excitedly replies that there is an easy way to get a divorce. The prince, however, wonders where the excitement in his voice comes from. In doing so, he would be able to demote and reduce her status to duchess. Lenarda's thoughts make Keir's brain boil. Lucas reports on the imperial laws the essence was that the title of emperor is passed only through the male line. Milady was stubborn, straightforward, and a bit even rude. Despite this, he feels very happy around her. Unlike other gentlemen, she has no feelings of envy for his title, which is very unusual. The prince does not refuse my lady's offers. He is confident that she has the power to make him emperor and spin the paper. They both agree to the terms and seal the deal. They laugh as if they were villains, but already fate has sealed the end. At a certain ball, the society ladies talk things over with Lucas and Duke Camellia. Further proof that everyone loves to debate someone, especially when it's a famous person. Everyone in the audience is aware of the rumor. It's a major topic of discussion that won't subside for a long time. After all, the publisher was bought and the first sales are already underway. A newspaper vendor announces the name to the entire street. The love affair issue was free, so more people would read it. Sigurd paid Camellia a visit with outrages about the scheduling there, but that's just the beginning. There's more to come. Lenarda had some letters lying on her desk, and they piqued Sigurd's interest. The letters contained obscene and crude words written by a drunk older than her by 11 years. He should be ashamed of himself. The realization that this is a failed fiancé is followed by thoughts that he might do something bad. The material in the leaky article is politically explosive. Not everyone can safely sign off on such. Lenarda is not stupid. She borrowed the name for the sake of anonymity from Betty, a childhood friend. In the beginning, she thought of borrowing the last name from Cyrus, but he didn't give approval to use his last name in this way. If Kira's name is brought to light in such matters, he will be despised as a knight, the prince's bodyguard. It's going to affect his reputation a lot, which he doesn't want to do. So there was no choice but to ask Betty. She had nothing to do with the prince. She could not be suspected of writing such laudatory articles in his favor. The fact that she's a woman is also a huge plus. One could attribute it to chauvinism. If things don't go the way they planned, the prince will become defensive and set people straight that what the woman wrote is nonsense. After that, all responsibility will be taken off the childhood friend. Lenarda once again shows how smart and cunning she is. Having a second idea, it is accepted to write a second article. With her magic pen, my lady will decide the fate of the imperial family. Prince Norton reads one of the papers and marvels at the insolence written. He resented it because his fiancée was mentioned. In this spelling, he asks Count Lavanau whether he knows something or not. He suggests that the newspaper of the middle nobility is very popular. Norton wanted to hear information about something a little different. He does not deny that his fiancée Sasha is beautiful and she should be the center of attention. She was chosen by his mother to be his wife. Only she is worthy to shine beside him. His interest affected the writer, who is not afraid to touch on the imperial family in his articles. The Count tells of Betty Yates, daughter of the Potter Baron. This is not a person to worry about. The Baron saved His Majesty's life when a pot fell on him. The title was obtained only because of the pot. In the Count's opinion, the newspaper does not set the prince's reputation in harm's way. On the contrary, in Alexander, the people will see the victim of gossip. Northen didn't even bother to read all the way through the paper. He ordered preparations to be made for his arrival at the Emperor's noon meal. Over an afternoon snack, the Emperor, Lucas, and Norton gathered. It had been a long time since they'd gotten together like this. The father remarks that his sons must be very busy since they so rarely see each other. Father asks about the newspaper, the Lachian Morning Post. Sons is happy that he was interested in reading the paper. He emphasizes Lucas because the paper was talking about him. That got his attention. A father asks his son to tell it like it really is. Norton gets the idea that his big brother is up to something. Once Lucas realized his brother suspected him. He adjusted himself as best he could to keep out of sight. My eldest son tells me that the article exaggerates everything. But there is no denying the rumor itself, and there is some truth to it. The father waits in anticipation for the full details of his son's love, promising not even to scold. Norton supports his father's zeal. As far as my brother is aware, the Camelias are very long-time and close friends of the imperial family. When there is a need, Camelia confirm the belonging of someone to the imperial family, but also identify conspirators and rebels. The ability of the White Eye served the Emperor well, played a great role. Norton falls under the influence of his thoughts and wonders if his brother has really fallen in love with Camelia's daughter. At that time, Lucas is also mulling things over, confirming everything. The prince fell in love with my lady before he even knew who she was. She dazzled him with her beauty and surprised him with her uniqueness. He hopes for his brother's understanding, as he already has a fiancée. At that time, the father is like a little joyful child, sincerely happy for his son, asking to tell more about the lady who stole his heart. In Norton's mind, questions arise as to whether Lucas's feelings are real or all a lie. Dad is still trying to get something out of his son, but he apparently has no intention of telling him yet. Since the relationship is not legitimized, he has to limit himself to what he has already said. The Emperor is genuinely happy for his eldest son and looks forward to meeting his companion. The head of the family leaves his sons. He forgot to send an important letter. If you need anything, I can look for it in his office. Lucas decides to visit his father. His Majesty assumed he would be. The young prince expresses how honored he is to represent the empire before the bright eyes of the sun. After reading the article, few people would have noticed the small print about Alexandra Lamisha. But his father notices and suspects Lucas, wondering if it's his job. After reading it, he had thoughts of it being an attempt to defile the girl, before he noticed something. Attention was drawn to a gambling house where sales of illegal magic potion were being made. The manager is a certain quiet nobleman. There is only one such place in the capital, the manager Baron Beryl. Beryl is the main financial backbone of young Prince Norton. At first glance, one might think that the purpose of the article was to slander Lady Camelia. However, upon close reading, it becomes clear the purpose of the attribution is Ron Beryl's illegal activities. The Emperor is very intelligent, and it's no wonder he was able to discern the true meaning. Lucas's job is not to give the appearance that he is involved in writing the article, so he fished out his regrets about the girl who had been attempted to be slandered. This is a great opportunity for him to strike a discreet blow to the Baron and leave Norton without funding. The Emperor himself is also benefited. He has long wished to do away with the gambling house. He wonders when his son learned to weave intrigue and gossip. As a father, it is hard for him to watch his sons vie with each other for the throne. Since there is only one throne, he has no choice to divide among his sons. Leaves it up to them to consolidate their own positions in high places and compete for the throne amongst themselves. He asks Lucas if he needs any help on his part. All the young man asks is that when he meets his lady of his heart, the father will be mindful of his son's suffering heart and unenviable fate. In other words, the trickster is asking for a blessing. Everything seems fine, and her father is only too happy to give his blessing. But if she's engaged to a nobleman, it complicates things. By law, he can't be arrested and investigated. The Emperor also succumbs to the laws, so that all is well. He asks for proof that the chosen one is unmarried. There'd be a problem if she was married. The prince promises to bring all the information and leaves the chambers. His Majesty was reminded of a moment from the past when Lucas was brought in and told that this was his son, Herzog Camellia confirmed, with the help of the White Eye. For a moment he doubted that the Duke had the White Eye ability at that moment, but he considers him his son without question. Milady loved to spend time in the library. Apollonia caught her just in time. From the evening, Lenarda comes before the library for his goals. She was expecting Apollonia, for she must bring her food. She could not forget her mistress and brought her a loaf of white, fresh bread. She was very grateful and hungry. Every night while in the library, she studies the laws of the Empire. The maid can't figure out what her mistress found interesting in political books. Seeing lots of huge stacks of books, you might think they've all been read. As it was, my lady had read everything she was interested in. While being asked what she's reading all this for, she listens while chewing bread. She was looking for material about the law governing the media for her newspaper, but unfortunately there was nothing meaningful in the books. The absence of this law for the last 4 centuries has brought much misery to the Empire. It's to Lenarda's advantage. She can't do anything or make any claims. Apollonia narrates that in her anger, Madame Imelda made a complete emergency. She gathered all the maids in one place, ordered to find a traitor among them who spread gossip. The Duke, like Madame, is also quite annoyed. The poor girl was interrogated until deep into the night. The girl realizes that it happened because of her and apologizes from the bottom of her heart. Despite this, she is delighted that the new newspaper has caused such a big stir, not only in the capital, but also on the Camellia estate. If it weren't for the mention of marriage. Under other circumstances, the Duke's family wouldn't even pay attention to the ridiculous next rumor. Lenarda found out that only Paul could evade interrogation. No one knows what he does on her orders. This news cannot please my lady. No doubt Edgar is scared about his relationship with the prince. Maybe he'll at least stop trying to come for the marriage. Duke Camellia is unlikely to consent to the marriage. He's very worried about the family ability. If Lenarda and Lucas have a child, it will be under the strong protection of the royal family. There's no way they'll let him go, which will make the Duke furious. Lenarda realizes the family wants to see her with Edgar because he would have no problem giving up the baby. These thoughts have bored her so much that she collapses to the floor out of helplessness and wishes to marry Lucas as soon as possible. Apollonia expresses her excitement about the prince. She doesn't like him and doesn't trust him. She has this opinion because if he were a normal prince, he would have imprisoned her long ago for insulting him. Gaining courage, she boldly declares that the prince has gone mad. Milady knows exactly what was meant and agrees completely. After all, she could have already had problems that she doesn't have now. Because Lucas responds to any insults with a smile on his face. With this, he disposes of himself, and Leonard trusts him. As time shows, power changes people. The same Duke of Camellia looks down on all men and scorns them, while the prince listens to her, which is already a huge confidence boost, as women in this country are not listened to in regards to politics. Even Norton's mother, with her high status in society, if she says something out of line, she will be immediately condemned by society. Let's not talk about Leonard. Embarrassed, she continues the story and recalls moments with the prince when they talk together. He doesn't look down on her. He is very interesting and comfortable to have a conversation with. She lived without purpose, thought there was no way out of the fairy tale, tried to get rich. But all the life in this tale is so ordinary and bleak that I started writing for fun. What's a heroine to do now? Everywhere she goes, you hear rumors about her and the prince. Somewhere in the back of her mind, she feels the fear of not knowing what will happen next. But fear doesn't affect the positive feelings she has begun to experience. Leonard talking about Lucas blossoms like a flower in spring. Apollonia was so pleased to look at my lady's happy face. She rarely sees the one naturally smiling and asks her not to overdo it in her endeavors. Emphasizes that he can always rely on her. The next day, the prince and my lady meet at the tavern. Getting straight to the point, the prince says that the emperor will forgive him if there is evidence provided. Just like we thought, it's not going to be easy for anyone. Leonard plans to get the evidence himself, then bring it to His Majesty. The plan to infiltrate Baron Baral's gambling house was risky, but there was no other choice. Keir is adamantly opposed to breaking into the house. It's very dangerous. There's no danger. The heroine wields the white eye. It is a wonderful and faithful helper in such places and times of need. The gist of the plan was to find Baral and denounce him in front of everyone. It's the only way to deny Norton funding on his part. As soon as there's proof, it's illegal substances. She wants to visit the Emperor at once and present the proof. But in reality, not everything is as simple as it seems. There are no laws against the circulation of magical zeals in the Empire. If the potion is presented to the Emperor, the accusations will fall not on Norton and the Baron, but on the Mage Tower. It'd be a setup. We need better evidence for him. The second plan was to track down the victims of the slave trade sold by this house. Now that would be much more substantial. Kier is about to go along with them, but an emphatic reply was uttered in two voices. He wonders why he was turned down right away, arguing the answer, Lucas says, that he has no sense of humor. Lenarda, on the other hand, says from the start they'll recognize him by the look on his face. Kier indignantly, perhaps, even with some anger, says, if the prince crosses the threshold of the gambling house, the rumors will spread very quickly throughout the Empire. Since the prince is famous, he is immediately recognized. My lady asks not to be alarmed. She has a certain idea. The plan comes to fruition. Lenarda enters the gambling house with the Takenswetten gentleman. The guy gave her a necklace that not even the Duchess has. She thanks him profusely. She'll have more precious jewelry if she wishes. It's only worth mentioning to the young man. Thanks to magic, Lucas's face was changed to avoid problems. Even with the small changes, it's hardly recognizable. No one expects to see a prince in a gambling house. The disguise worked successfully. The gatekeepers didn't suspect a thing, which meant the others didn't either. It's a great success. Walking inside, they consider the visitors in case there is someone familiar. There are a lot of casino tables in the house, which makes it clear that there are a lot of gamblers here. Lenarda had imagined this house to be more luxurious, but in reality it was just a casino. The casino promotes slave trade, prostitution, and illegal potion trafficking. The leader, the Baron, is nowhere to be seen. My lady is pondering how to get the evidence. Attention was drawn to the huge door, which is more heavily guarded than the others. Of course, one wonders what's behind it. Falling into the role of the lover, Lucas abruptly distracts my lady by abruptly grabbing her waist and pulling her closer to him. Their gazes met, a thrill of excitement coming over the girl. That's when the words fly out of beautiful lips about how much he loves her. The prince was highly suspicious and attracted unwanted attention. She connects to his game and plays along at the highest level, but maybe it wasn't a game at all. Lenarda decided to try gambling at the casino. The men playing it wondered if such a beautiful lady could play such an uneasy game, asking permission to play such a game of chance from her lover. Lucas doesn't realize whether or not the beloved will play or not, since he knows you can't accept new players during the game. The question became what to do. One of the gentlemen doesn't mind her playing a couple rounds with them. He thinks it would be cute to see her play. She's allowed to play a few games. The prince wishes his beloved luck. To keep suspicion at bay, she's acting like a stupid pacifier and a naive one at that. That way there won't be any unnecessary questions. The rules of the game are explained. I make an indulgence for the lady. If she gets tired of playing, she can opt out at any time. After learning about the one with the most points, it surprised her. Compares the game to blackjack, which is a game for smart people. As soon as each player was dealt 2 cards, she immediately shouted the word stop. She was caught over 17 points and wondered if she could say stop. Playing dumb, Lucas joined in, repeating what he had warned about the difficulty of the game. She's hysterical, asking to start the whole game over again. One man asked to explain in order, and then the lady would begin to get the gist of the game. On her whim, because she's a girl, the gentleman agreed to start the game over. She vows to win this time. Lenarda has an ingenious plan for what to do next. After receiving her cards, she says the word, stop. The Lord is breaking out in a sweat at the mere thought of her winning. After all, they were so eager to laugh at her and look down on her. The Lady Rose won once again. Lady Rose is the new pseudonym. Men don't want to believe they've been won over by a girl. Start accusing her of cheating. The prince is in the position of defending his beloved, telling her that this is the first time she has picked up cards, and accordingly would not have learned to cheat so quickly. Taunting them, he offers to play another game, to belittle their skills to the game and prove that girls can play much better than men. The lady wins again. The establishment is already starting to spread rumors about the damsel who beats the gentleman every time. Rose is accused of cheating, but she emphasizes that they themselves said the outcome of the game depends on luck, and she always has luck on her side. To prove her innocence, she placed her necklace, which was given to her by the man she loved. But in this game, the outcome depends more on the psychological attitude of the player. The choices and decisions will determine the victory. Rose was taking a dash of casual observation, watching their faces she knew when they were bluffing. Whoever was dealing the cards called the lady a bitch and started swinging. But a young man came his way with claims about how dare he treat his lady like that. The casino manager approaches and suggests that the gentlemen distract themselves and relax a bit. That's all well and good, and everyone doesn't mind a vacation, but the lady asks about her money, to which she is promised to hand her the money personally. A lover suggests trying something different, like buying a nice wine and giving it to the lady. The casino manager is asked to prepare rooms for two for them, or rather how the manager fixed the guest room. Guest rooms are located a floor above and are held by a receptionist. Walking down the hallway, Lady Rosa considers it and is surprised at how long it is. Here they come. They were given a room to rest in. The room is quite modestly furnished. It gives a homely feel. They will definitely be able to take a break from unnecessary eyes here. The manager will bring things up. Lenarda thinks he's very nice. Once they were alone, they exhaled together. It was hard to play sweethearts without anyone suspecting anything about them. Lucas compares Lenarda to the artist Maria from the Central Theater, but if she played as well as she did, she would already be a great and most popular actress. He is pleased with the teamwork. Well done. She offers to lie on the bed. The prince does not refuse the offer. She pulled him to her, feeling a wave of excitement come over the prince. A couple that sits on the couch, alone with each other, looks very suspicious from the outside. She tells him to cuddle harder. These words appear in a completely different light. She doesn't do it out of whimsy, but to be mistaken for a real couple in love. Quite a sensitive moment, but because of the change in appearance, he's not as interesting to Lenarda as he used to be. The real face is much better than the current face. He wonders if she enjoys looking at his beautiful face. Milady finds Lucas's face a comfort, since good looks are a way to achieve the greatest well-being without spending too much. It provides even better amenities for undercover work. Suddenly, the organizer walks in, taking the couple by surprise. He brought the winnings that the lady won. He exchanged the bet for currency. They give 100 coins for each token, and there are 30 Bellin gold pieces in the box. Surprised at how much she could win, but before she can collect her winnings, she must answer one question. The casino house accrues 1% each, and 1,000 gold pieces become 1,100. This means the winning tokens increase as well. The organization is offering to exchange the bet for some sort of interesting experience. Lenarda was immediately interested in this, for she had heard of it before. She persuades her lover to accept the offer because she really wants to try it. The prince guesses that it might be an expired magic potion. He agrees to the suggestions. The potion is only offered to VIPs, so they haven't seen a magic potion anywhere before. They could go to the 3rd floor to the elite person's room if they so wished. He confidently declares that after a visit to that room, the stakes on the 1st floor will no longer interest them. They looked at each other, and it was as if they had read each other's thoughts that they could finally find something of value there. The organizer rejoices that the golden ones remain, and the guests will pass on. He will guide them to the 3rd floor, but in return he asks everything they see, hear, and try to keep secret. It's all confidential. These are the rules of the casino and are asked to abide by them. Milady, on the other hand, is setting herself up to find on the 3rd floor what she didn't find on the 1st. Once on the 3rd floor, the prince continued to play, while my lady drank her drink that was already giving her stars in her head. He promises to get the best star for the lady, meanwhile she is almost asleep. Suddenly, she feels uncomfortable and retreats to the restroom. But it was just another game. Feels good, actually. To pull off her scam, she made a deal with Lucas to pretend to be drunk on purpose. Then he'll go through all the rooms on the 3rd floor. While she circles the floor, the prince's job is to distract the guards. The prince is worried about the girl and offers to go in her place. Objecting, she explains that drunk girls are a fairly common occurrence in casinos, and no one would be surprised. Also, it is not desirable for the true identity to be revealed. Lucas accepts this plan, but if suddenly something goes wrong, asks to yell loudly and he will come to help right away. But she won't need it since she has a book that records speech and takes pictures. Usually secret rooms are in the basement or dungeon, but the house has neither. There's no basement, of course, but there are 4 floors. Therefore, the evidence she's looking for is on the 3rd or 4th floor. The lady makes the decision to go around these floors, but she is confused by the fact that there are no guards in the hallway, probably because there are important guests present. She begins to circle the rooms on the floor. Opening the first door, she disturbed the guests who were playing in the casino and were perturbed by her sudden appearance. Entering the second room, catches the two men in a ridiculous fight. She apologizes and says she supposedly got lost. Without giving up, he continues his search. Opening the door of the next room, a few guards appear in front of her. As it turned out, it was their room. She pretended she couldn't find the ladies' room, unsuspecting her, showing her the way to the restroom. Does the heroine really need to go around every room on the floor? Because so far she's not finding anything of value to her. Succeeding in his disappointment, he notices a large iron door. As she stepped closer to the mysterious door, pondering what could be in there, she is approached by a security guard who puts her in a stupor. The guard was twice the size of the fragile girl, his menacing stare and gruff voice wondering what she was doing here. Others, however, recall her. She had mislaid the door a few minutes ago because she was looking for the restroom. They begin to suspect something amiss, asking each other if this lady was sure she came with a guest. Just in case they send it upstairs, if anyone is looking for it, they'll bring it back down. Raspanik says in a worried voice where her companion is. She should have been hysterical at the hopelessness of it, but she instead found an upside to it. She'll be able to, shall we say, officially get to the fourth floor. One of the soldiers took the girl under his arm, and the girl pretended to be drunk and that she was an airplane. The other one notices she's wasted, thinking a secret door will open for her, but she's being carried in the opposite direction. She's being treated horribly. They throw Lenarda into some dirty, untidy room and order her to sit there for now. This attitude is already alarming, but she's not getting out of there. After coming to her senses and getting from the floor to her feet, she commits to dealing with them. The place she ended up in looks like a warehouse. She heard some strange sound. Turning her head, she noticed a girl sitting on the floor. The poor one is asking for help. Before her eyes, the girl who asked for help faints and falls to the floor. Lucas is already starting to get nervous. My lady has been gone too long. Lenarda tries to help and bring the strange damsel to consciousness. The prince was tired of sitting alone playing and wasting time. After finishing another batch, he wonders what time it is. Looking out the window, you can see the Lideck, the first star that announces dawn. The fact that the first star has appeared alarms him. Leonard has been absent too long. He's starting to suspect something's wrong. To get off the premises, he has to come up with some good reason. The man playing with Lucas asked for some sand. The waiter immediately began preparations for serving. He can't understand what the sand is, but upon seeing it, he begins to understand. The man used it in his smoking pipe. Noticing the unusual color of the smoke, the prince becomes even more convinced that it may be a magical remedy. Wondering from another man what it is? Upon hearing the question, everyone started laughing. They suspected he was a rookie, and now they're convinced of it. This is not ordinary sand, but a powder of relaxing herbs to calm the nerves. The main plant is ping, which causes muscle relaxation, used to make a magical potion with a sleeping potion effect. But it was just powder from the plant. It was not magical. Suddenly, a guard with Lenarda on his back bursts in, asking who the escort is. Seeing his companion in this position angered him. He's being asked to step out. He's being asked if he's sure he came with this milady. Prince doesn't deny it, wondering what happened. The guard, on the other hand, talks about her pulling out his hair while she was riding. The prince apologized for his companion. After getting in the carriage, he says that she may be waking up already. Lucas questions why she's been away for so long. Did something happen, and did she manage to learn anything of value? She has information, but will tell you later as time is short. Lenarda asks the prince to visit Camellia Manor officially. She's sure that because of the rumors, the Duke won't be able to refuse the blessing. The Duke received a letter from the prince, indignant at his manners of announcing his arrival on the day of his arrival. Lenarda's preparations for His Highness's arrival begin. Imelda is angry at the turmoil since the morning and the prince's behavior. The stepmother blames her stepdaughter for her torment. She gives orders to dress my lady properly. There's no telling what other rumors might come out. My lady's waist had gotten a little bigger, so putting on the corset it was small. She refuses to wear it to meet the prince. Seeing what's going on, the stepmother blushes, assumes she's pregnant. To which Lenarda replies that she has nothing to be ashamed of. Everyone has seen everything. Her stepmother orders her not to resist and to put the corset on properly. No matter how hard Lenarda tries, she is regarded as property of the Camellia family. She got tired of listening to her stepmother and shoved her against the wall, telling her she shouldn't make her angry. And if she's got it all figured out, she should poke around the room and dress Lenarda however she wants.